Well, hello and welcome back to another absolute beginner web development tutorial. And now we're cruising along in JavaScript. And so that's what we're going to be talking. So let's just dive right in here. We're going to right click, hit new document, and I'm going to say empty document. You'll be creating yours a little bit different if you're on a Mac and a little bit different on your Windows. If you're confused, I have two videos, one for Mac and one for Windows, on how you can create HTML files on your desktop. So I'm going to say index.html. Right here, of course, Windows is .htm, but for my system, it is going to be .html. And I'm going to right-click, open with gedit, because that is my editor. Yours will be Notepad or text edit. And we're going to go in here and write our bare bones HTML, shall we? HTML. There we go. And let's go inside here and put something in our head. Put in our head elements, our head tags, and then body tags, body elements, whatever you want to call them. I like tags. All right, so let's go inside the head here and put in our title tag, right like that. And we are going to be talking about the JavaScript DOM HTML events for absolute beginners. So I got it copied. I'm just going to paste it right here. JavaScript DOM HTML events for absolute beginners. And then we're going to grab this. I'm going to right click, copy, and go inside my body tag or my body element. And I'm starting to use element a little more to get you guys used to that document.get element by ID. Okay, so we're just going to put the H1 tag here. H1. Let's go ahead and use our favorite ID. We're going to set an attribute of foo, right? There we go. And now underneath here, we're going to go script. S-C-R-I-P-T, because that's what we're working with now. Okay, so you remember the last time we were working on this, and what we did was we used that document get element by ID. We document dot get element by ID, and then we would target the ID, and our ID is foo. And then we would put a parenthesis. Well, you still have to do that. However, whenever we're going .style .color equals red, okay, and let's just go ahead and I'm going to save this and we'll load it up in the browser, okay? So that should turn this text red. In fact, let's go ahead and open that up right now. And here we can see it nice, big and red on the page. So it works fine. So if we changed it to blue, B-L-U-E, we save it and we refresh the page, we can see that it turns blue because it's getting that element ID. And I showed you how to put that into a function too. And so let's go ahead and create a button, B-U-T-T-O-N. And then this is going to be the Onclick event. And we're going to be talking about this in detail today. Okay, onclick, we'll make a function called change, and then open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and then we'll put in a name. We'll just say change, and then we'll close out our button, just like so. All right, now down here, like we talked about last time, we start out with function, and then we name our function, C-H-A-N-G-E, same thing as above, open and close parentheses, and then open and close curly brackets. But instead of putting the final curly bracket here, we're going to encompass this document.get element by ID. And let me just go ahead and save that, and then we'll refresh. You can see that it's black. Whenever I click, it changes to blue. All right. Now, there's another way to write this. It's kind of like shorthand. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab this right here, and I'm going to hit Control X and cut that out. And we're going to store this in a variable called X. So then that way, whenever we continue to write here, let me just give you an example. So we were copying this, and then we would paste this long code, and then maybe we would do enter HTML, and then we would have it equal whatever, right? Whatever. So that whenever they refresh the page and clicked on this button, that's what that changes to, okay? But so anyway, whenever we can write it out, this is kind of like the long way to do it though, because we can store these in variables like I was telling you about. So let me just go ahead and get rid of this line here. And we're going to copy all of this right here. And I'm just going to hit Control X and put that in my clipboard. I'm going to go to the front here and we're going to set var equals X. Okay? And that's that document.get element by ID. Okay? Or var, I'm sorry, it's var X equals. Got a little dyslexic there. Var X. So variable of X, X equals document.get element by ID. Now all I'll have to do is whenever I come down here, put the letter X, and then I concatenate. That means I'm appending or adding on to with a period or a dot. And then I'm just going to paste in that style color blue. In fact, I already had that concatenation in there. Okay, so I'm adding this, putting this into a variable of X, and then I'm taking that X and I'm concatenating it to the style of color of blue. Why is this beneficial? Well, whenever I want to write the inner HTML, all I have to do is copy this line and put that down here. And let's put these in order, because if they're out of order, I go crazy. And so we'll go inner HTML. And then we are not doing a color. We're just doing an HTML. And we're just going to say, this is way better, way cooler. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And now when we refresh and we click change, this is way better because it's kind of shorthand. And now we could grab that variable of X anytime we need to and make something happen. All right. So that's all you have to do to set a variable. We discussed the old way and the new way of writing and what the benefits are of doing so. So let's talk about these onclick events. Now, let's say that we have a div in here, div ID, and we're just going to use foo again. And we're going to take foo out of this one here. Okay. We're going to just put it here, and so just say this is some cool stuff. All right. And I'm going to put a div right here, closing div tag. And we don't need a button anymore, except for this onclick change. Now you notice I'm taking this out of the button and I'm putting it in the div. Okay, I'm taking the button totally out of page. So I got a div, and here's my closing div tag. And I have an attribute of ID equals foo, and then onclick equals change. I'm going to call the change function, which is right here. And this is some cool stuff, should be changed to this is way better, and the text should be blue, okay, even when I click that div. So let's go ahead and save that and reload the DOM. You notice whenever I click up here, nothing happens, okay, but when I click down here, I'm above that div, so that div is located right here. So that is another way that you can use the onclick events, okay. Let's move on to an onload event. Okay, now there's something special about the onload event. Okay, so the onload event can only happen in the body tag. Okay, this is unique about onload. Okay, onload can only happen in the body, but onload we will call our function of change. And so we'll take this out of here to avoid confusion. All right. So now on load, when the body loads, we're going to have it called the function of change. And so you can almost guess what's going to happen. You're not even going to see this stuff right here. All you're going to see is what it's going to change to, because as it loads, it's going to change it. So let's just go ahead and refresh the page. And so we see this is way better, is already there. And we're not seeing this is some cool stuff, okay? Because before, if we didn't have that onload, we would see something different. Let me show you something else too on how to comment out JavaScript and comment out CSS. Okay, let's say that we just wanted to disable this real quick, okay? If we want to disable this, we could use a / and an asterisk, and then at the end use an asterisk and a /. You could do the exact same thing in CSS when you're commenting out. And now notice this is way better. Whenever we refresh, we should see the other one. This is some cool stuff. But notice we left this one commented in, so this one is still taking effect. All right? So that's just another little tidbit for you. Sometimes we'll use those for commenting and or debugging, just like we did there. So we talked about the onload event. It only belongs to the body element or the body tag. Now, how about the onChange event? Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. So first of all, we're going to get rid of all of this stuff right here, and let's talk about this onChange event. What's this business all about? So we'll go input. Remember, whenever we're doing that, input type equals text. All right, and we're going to give this an ID of foo. Okay, and if we're going to give it an if. Now let's give it an ID. All right, and let's go ahead and close that out. And so what we'll do here is onChange. We will call our function of change, CHANGE. Okay. So we're going to call this, but now what we're going to do is we're going to take this out because we're already on an input type, so inner HTML don't matter too well here. But let's see what happens with this color of blue. All right, so let me save that. We'll reload the DOM, and watch, I'll type in here. It's black. Well, what happened? Well, I'm going to click out of it here, and you'll notice that nothing changes. Why? Because I forgot my open and close curly brackets on the onChange event. So you don't want to do that too often. So let me just type in my name, Max. Notice it is black. Okay, but now let me click off of the page. Notice it turns blue. Okay, so the event change. I was inside and then I was outside. Okay, inside. Then whenever I'm changing events in the DOM right now. Okay, so we could target that with JavaScript with the onChange function. So let's just do another one. Instead of X style is blue, let's transform everything to uppercase. So let's go text transform equals uppercase. And let me go ahead and save that. And we'll refresh. And now I'm going to write in all lowercase letter, Maximus. Okay. Now I'm going to hit my tab on my keyboard this time. Watch what happens. Okay. So using the tab on the keyboard or clicking with the mouse will all trigger this onChange event. All right. Very cool. Huh? Let's talk about on mouse over events. All right. So let's go ahead and go back to a div ID of foo. All right, let's take this out right here. Whoops, no. We will go ahead and say on mouse over. All right. Then we're going to call our function of change. And let's go ahead and this is a on mouse over event. And we will close out that div, that dice. All right. So on mouse over, we're going to call this function var document get element by ID foo, which is that right there, and we're going to give it the color of blue, and then we're going to transform the text to uppercase. All right. Let's see if it works. So let's reload, and here we go. Boom. Pretty interesting, eh? So I'm up here. I'm mousing over up here right now, but it doesn't happen until boom, there you go. Okay, so that's a mouse over event. Okay, that's what happens. Now, what about the on mouse out event? On mouse out. Okay, so let's just put on mouse O-U-T right here. Okay, now if I save this and I reload the DOM, you'll notice I come over, I'm on top of it. I'm on top of it. I'm not moving. I'm still on top of that div. I'm moving back and forth on top of that div. But now whenever I go out, you notice that that's what happens. Okay, so whenever I mouse out on an event, whenever I use that event, that's what happens. So I'll reload it. I'm over top of it, and then I go out. Okay, so people oftentimes use these for pop-ups in their website. You know, whenever they do that, you'll have a pop-up. Well, that's sometimes what will happen when you're mousing over a page. They'll bring up a pop-up whenever you do on mouse out. Okay, and that keeps people from leaving your page sometimes. It's irritating, but sometimes people want to decrease their bounce rate. All right, let's talk about on mouse down. Then we're going to call the change. Okay, notice I'm not messing around with the functions here. It's because we don't need to. I'm just going to show you these different events. Now I'm hovering over, I'm in, I'm out, I'm on top, nothing happens. But now I'm getting ready to click my mouse button. 3, 2, 1. Now I have my mouse down. So this isn't really, this is a click, but it's not a click. It's on mouse down, because the next one we're going to discuss is on mouse up events. Okay, so let's go ahead, go back here. This is on mouse up event. So we did on mouse down. Let's do on mouse up. And let me save this. We're going to reload the DOM. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on it. I'm holding down on my mouse. I know you can't see me, but I'm actually doing it. But let me release the button on my mouse in 3, 2, 1. Oh, there we go. So this happens when we release the button. So the first one is when the button's down, and this is on mouse up when you release the button. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Okay, let's do the on focus. Okay, let's do on focus. And for this one, we're going to use an input. Input type equals text. Okay. ID equals foo. All right. And then on focus, we're going to call our change function. Okay. We're going to call our change function like that. And let's close that out. And then maybe we'll do, instead of a style color of blue, we'll do a style color of red here. And then let's change the background color. Okay, background color. And we will change the background color to yellow. All right, now let's save this. Let's save this for a second and let's look, see what's going to happen. Now you notice here is our input box. All right. I haven't focused on it. Let's focus on it. By focusing on it, I'm clicking inside of it. Okay, so that's an on focus event. A lot of times with tablets and mobile phones and stuff, you know, when you're scrolling down, you want to know when you're being focused. When you're on focus, you notice you also get that little line around there. And now we change the background color. So let's change the background color to pink. Pink is my favorite color. Okay, here we go. So let's go ahead and do it again. So now we have pink. So you can almost, you'll notice, you know, that'll come handy in some different situations depending on what you're doing. I hope you've enjoyed this video about JavaScript events, and then we did a little bit about the variables there. If you like this tutorial, please like, share, and subscribe. Share it with your friends and anybody that you know that's trying to get into web development. I'm more than happy to teach them. I've been doing it for about 25 years now, and I've always thought that it was fun. But my favorite is watching people learn it, even though we have thousands of clients all over the world. This just happens to be my hobby that brings me a lot of joy. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. This is Max.